Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hospitality Edge podcast. This podcast is meant to bring together what we think are two sides of the same coin, real estate and hospitality. Whether you are a current or aspiring short-term rental property manager, host, or real estate investor, you're in the right place. Dive in with us to uncover the captivating stories and golden nuggets from industry heavyweights, including leaders, operators, investors, syndicators, founders, and entrepreneurs. So thank you. Really, thank you for embarking on this journey with me. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast, and I promise I'll do my best to deliver value-packed episodes that hopefully will not just inform, but also help inspire the next generation of real estate and hospitality professionals. Truly yours, Sebastián Muñoz. And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Hospitality Edge podcast, where we bring together what we think are two sides of the same coin, real estate and hospitality. Today, I'm beyond excited to have with me two very special guests, Lionne and Kristen, who embody this, concept of, having real estate and hospitality together in a perfect way, I would say. So they're, American entrepreneurs, property managers, real estate investors that are actually living in Mazatlan, Mexico, and have been, building a portfolio of short-term rental properties for the last, couple of years now. So without further ado, Lionne, Kristen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
Absolutely. So before we jump into anything else, why don't you start by giving us a quick overview of your background? Let's start with how the two of you met, and where did that lead to a professional relationship from there?
That's how we met. Is actually a really fun story. It's a little bit long, but not too long. So how we met was, I was working at the time in a bank in First Interstate Bank as a teller, and I was new. And so I didn't really know all the customers that would come in on a day-to-day basis. And so Lionne walked in, and he did a transaction with one of the other tellers in the bank. And I'm like watching him. Like, it almost feels like
Stalking.
That I wasn't really stalking him. I was like, wow, like I was immediately attracted to him. And so I'm like watching him, and he does this transaction, walks out of the bank. And the whole bank is like windows. So you can actually watch somebody walk out around the corner to the parking lot. And so I'm watching him. And as he turns the corner to go to the parking lot, he's wearing brown khaki pants and a yellow polo shirt and a brown leather jacket. And he turns the corner, and he takes his collar and he like pulls it up, like kind of like Fonzie style, like this, as he's walking to the car. And I say to myself in this moment, now I have no idea who this guy is. And I'm like, I'm going to marry that guy. And so then I started talking to some of the girls in the bank, and I'm like, who is this guy? And they're like, oh, that's Lionne. Like, his dad owns the restaurant across the street, and so on and so forth. So they were like, so they said, you need to go, and like, he waits tables over there. So you need to go and sit down and have lunch one day. So I did. I went by myself, and I sat down in this section, had lunch, and I'm super shy. Like back then I was like really, really shy. And so what I thought was flirting apparently wasn't.
I was working.
He would know. Or he was just so busy that he was like not
busy working, like I always am.
So anyway, I went and had lunch, and I didn't feel like anything. I gained anything from that. So I went back to the bank, and the girls were like, "Oh my gosh, how'd it go?" And I was like, "Yeah, no. Maybe he's just not interested. Maybe he's got a girlfriend." And so they're like, so the girls said, "Well, just wait a couple weeks. Just wait a couple weeks and go and try it one more time." So I was like, "Okay, fine. I'm gonna do it one more time, and then that's it." So I waited a couple weeks, went back, did it again, same thing. Nothing.
I was working.
Nothing. So I got back to the bank, and I told the girls, I said, that's it. I said, I'm done. I'm not going to pursue this anymore. He's probably not interested. It's okay. And so that day I was actually working drive-through. And so I'll let Lionne take it from here because I'm working drive-through and he's coming in with his story.
Well, I came into the bank and was doing my transactions and had done the deposits for the day like I normally had. And from the back of the office, I hear Lionne. And I know immediately that it was Mary. And Mary is a whole lot of woman. And she totally commanded my presence. And as well, I was at a point in my life where I just figured maybe I'd bounce a check or something, and then my bank account's all right. So I was over there, I kind of had my tail between the legs, and I was like, yeah, Mary? She's like, did you know that Kristen has a crush on you? And so all of a sudden I like woke up, I'm like, wait, who's Kristen? Because I knew everybody in the bank. I looked back at the tellers and nobody there. I knew everyone. I'm like, that's not Kristen. She's like, she's working drive-through. And I was like, oh, immediately I knew she was a new girl. So I went running back to the restaurant and locked up, got in my car, and I scraped up everything I could find in the car, 63 cents. So I get into drive-through with my deposit and all these change and pennies and quarters. And I made a deposit for 63 cents.
Now, he pushed it through the drive-through tube thing.
That deposit's been paying dividends ever since.
Oh, that's so funny. And then okay, so that's how it started. You know, you guys met, you guys got together and have been happy ever since. But when did you guys first work together? When did you guys first, did a project together, whether it was, your first real estate investment, your first business? When was it that you said, you know what, we are going to work together here?
The first time we actually really came together, worked together like we are right now, it's basically when we moved to Mazatlan. Yeah. Because when we were up in Washington, I was working with my mom and Nishan, and he was working with Pacific Coast Restaurant. So we kind of, we were
professionally doing something completely different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
So really we came together when we decided to move to Mazatlan and open up this business.
We got it. And how did that happen? Because you're in Washington. I think you made your first real estate investment then. Correct me if I'm wrong. But how do you end up
2007,
and why?
Well, we had started coming to Mazatlan shortly after we met, because her folks had a place here, and so we came for a week, and then we came for a week twice a year. Then we came for 2 weeks. Then we came for 2 weeks twice a year. And as we were growing our family and our professional career, we always had a place to go. Where her parents had a place on the golf course there in the El Cid area of Mazatlan. And we got to a point in life where her mom had retired. And so she was kind of looking for something to do. And I was consulting. And at that time, the company I had used to work for had sold. So I was trying to also kind of put my foot in the door, become a part of a partnership. And nothing seemed to click in Washington. And the one thing that we kept going back to was this life at a slower pace with a culture that is very family oriented, that had a better cost of living, and just really lovely people, something that we knew our whole life. And we were in between those projects, and we got a phone call from Kristen's mom. And she said, I found your house.
She says, you need to buy it.
And it was the worst house in the best neighborhood, which is our motto. So we bought it without ever seeing it. Sent the money. She closed. It actually went into her name. Didn't even go into our name because we didn't know anything about how real estate worked in Mexico. She did this Fideicomiso thing. And so at that point, we had really no idea what we were doing. We just knew that we had this dream that included Mexico. So we sold everything that we had.
Without a plan, just like, I'm going to go to this property that I just bought because my mom told me I should buy. That's it.
Well,
it was kind of like that though. Yeah.
That was kind of our history. My mom and I and another gal, we used to buy, before we moved here, we used to buy dilapidated homes and we used to renovate them. We would sell them initially till we built up enough capital, till we had enough capital built up to where we felt like we could start keeping them as rentals. And so we did that for 12, 13 years in Washington. So when my mom calls, right, and she says, I found your house, I immediately trust her because that's what we did for a living.
So yeah, sight unseen, transferred up. At that point, it was $150,000, which
not for a house.
You can't even get a lot for that these days.
No. That's crazy. So there's two things I wanna touch on there, and it's, when you first got to Mexico to live in this place, how soon after that did you get involved with real estate? Because right now you have a property management company as well as a brokerage firm. Which started first? Was it the brokerage first and then you started doing property management? And how did all of that come about?
We started the property management first. So basically what we did is we really weren't sure if Mazatlan was going to be the place where we were going to be full time.
Mind you, we had two kids. They were 8 and 10.
They were 8 and 10. So what we did is we decided, okay, let's come down for a year. Let's put the kids into school. Let's fix up our investment. And we had the name Mazatlan4Rent. We had the website. We had all of that. But initially, it was only going to be to serve the property that we had bought, right? And so while we're there fixing up the house, we had a lady she lives about maybe 6 or 7 houses down from us, from Calgary. And so she came down and she was very curious about who we were and our story.
Watching us fix the place
Watching us fix it up. And she said, she says, I'm really not happy with my property manager. And she said, would you be interested in managing my home while I'm not here? And I remember looking at Lionne after she said that. And I said, if we say yes, that means we're not leaving Mazatlan.
And this is well into our time here. We had added, a couple of the properties of the family into the portfolio for rent. Our home had a studio, and we inherited this Canadian fellow named Mac, who was with us for subsequently another 10 years. And finally, his kids took him home. He was 95 or something like that at the time. And those few rentals that we had were giving us a little bit of income. We built an apartment above the garage, and we had a little workstation in our bedroom. It was our office. Had the Vonage line, so we had an international line so that people from US and Canada could call free. And yeah, so this client, she really ignited us and set the roots, if you will. Yeah. She was like the fertilizer for our business.
I remember we started out just like he's saying with a website. We had a laptop, we had the Vonage phone, and it basically initially was set up in our bedroom. And that's how we started this business. And eventually it moved from the bedroom to the living room to then us renovating the garage space.
Where we had our first employees, our first administrator, Yeah.
Yeah. And then from
In our garage.
in our garage, and then we got,
In the garage, that's it.
In the garage, yeah. Literally.
and we got to a point where we were exploding out of the garage. There wasn't enough space anymore.
Yeah.
And so we decided to lease a space in the Golden Zone, which is basically right across from the Holiday Inn right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's where the corporate started.
Those first properties you had that you bought, because you said you had already a small portfolio before you started taking management clients, were those short-term rentals or were those long-term rentals?
Short-term vacation.
From the get-go, since the first investment property you bought, you
Very
started
beginning.
doing short-term rentals with it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Our goal was to share what we fell in love with 30 years ago. For 15 years, we were tourists, and now we got to host tourists in some of our favorite places. And so we did everything we could. We picked them up at the airport. We'd stock their fridge with groceries. We put fresh flowers in the entryway. We included maid service. We rolled out the carpet for people.
We would go pick them up at the airport.
Yeah.
So I remember it. We would
That's where the margaritas started.
Yeah, we would have a cooler full of water, sodas, beers, and margaritas, and we would literally tailgate there in the parking lot of the airport and load our guests in and give them beverages.
Yep, for the ride in. Because it's a haul. It was like 40 minutes back then. Now we got this sweet highway. It's only 15 minutes, but back then it was, you had to go all the way through Urias and the old part of Mexico. And
That's
it. We really fell in love with it.
So short-term rentals from the get-go. Then, you started taking management contracts. So you started managing other people's places. At that point, you're like, okay, we're staying here. This is our home now. We're permanent. I just want to fast track to today to understand how far you've come, but then we'll go back to the actual, process of that growth. So right now, Mazatlan4Sale and Mazatlan4Rent, they're, one of the most, if not the most recognizable brands, I would say, in Mazatlan for you've been around for so many years now. Tell us a little bit about where you are now. How many properties are you managing? How big is the brokerage operation as well? Just so that we can get a sense of what started in the garage, how far it has come.
So the unique piece for us as we have evolved was the people who helped get us to where we are now. Along the way, we found amazing help, all bilingual, all at one point or another part of the administration and office of Mazatlan4Rent. They helped with daily tasks. They helped with repairs and maintenance. They helped with sales. They helped with administration. And so that group of employees has grown to over 20 now. And we have private chefs. We have daily maid service. We have house managers for our large villas. The number of homes that we look after are probably in the top 10% of all the rentals. If you were to do an analysis.
pretty high end properties. Yeah,
super high end. We have super wonderful clients who have come to expect a certain level of service in our area of expertise. So everything from transportation to hosting weddings to photography. We do custom remodelations. We do custom furniture. We have a broker that we work with for all household appliances, furniture, rugs, decorations. We've subsequently partnered with a number of different artists and really talented people from Oaxaca up to the northern area towards Laredo, Texas for copper goods, leather goods, hand-blown glass artifacts. So we've partnered with these people to bring those things to the office. So our office was quite large, and we wanted to fill that space with something unique. So in that, we've opened a bit of a gallery. Unfortunately, it's kind of a bodega right now because we're doing a major house remodel. And in doing so, securely, we house the appliances and things for our clients. So after 15 years, we've got 60 some odd homes that we're looking after, over 20 employees working with us. That's just Mazatlan4Rent. Mazatlan4Sale opened, and then those key managers for Mazatlan4Rent were given an opportunity to be what they call socios or partners. Mm-hmm. So we incorporated Mazatlan4Sale and gave the staff the opportunity to become partners. And each of them, over a period of time, made contributions each month so that they could be shareholders within the company. So Mazatlan4Sale now has, a dozen brokers, has one of the key points within the Golden Zone anchored for our brokerage, our real estate office, and our gallery. And the gallery really hosts a lot of different charitable events. So during the season, every month we have an art festival, and all of the proceeds go towards specific charity. Right now, we're working with a group called Gems of Mazatlan.
They're actually Canadian. They're a Canadian nonprofit. Yeah, and it's really neat too because the education level in Mazatlan is only paid up to the 6th grade, and so and then basically the kids have to pay past the 6th grade. So a lot of families can't afford that, and so what they do is they take these children that can't afford it, and they put them all the way through college.
And people like ourselves will either sponsor a child through a certain period of time, or they'll make donations. Or for us, like our margaritas have become super popular, so we have a festival, and the kids all paint these jarritos, which is kind of like a clay mug. So the kids paint the mugs, and we sell the mugs, but we give away the margarita free when they buy a mug, and all the money for the mugs and stuff like that goes to the charity. And we've raised probably $25,000, $30,000 over the last couple of years just doing little fun events like this.
That's awesome. I want to ask you something. So we talk a lot about the American dream, right? We want to go and build our American dream. And there's a lot of people from Mexico that, want to go to the United States and live there. I personally, I'm from Colombia, and, the United States is always seen as the place where you go to make your dreams come true and whatnot. You guys are living the Mexican dream. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how they are different and what are some things that made you more inclined towards wanting to live in Mexico rather than in the US? And what would you say to someone that is considering making that decision of moving from the US to Mexico, for example, as far as, whether they should do it or not, whether it's for them or not?
Well, I have a really good impression as to what something feels like as a guest. And I grew up in Hawaii, and in Hawaii they have something called Kaima'aina spirit, and I don't know if you know this, but Mazatlan's on the same parallel as Hawaii. So a lot of the birds, a lot of the flowers, the plants, definitely the fish, are almost the same. We're the same parallel, the climate's similar, and so is a lot of the flora and fauna, no? And the one thing that I remember growing up in Hawaii is that spirit of mi casa is su casa, which is what we discovered in Mexico, is so strong in Latin America. Our exposure is Mexico, obviously. We try and find a new place to visit every single year. That's kind of our motto, is each year, okay, where are we going to next that we haven't been in Mexico? And that travel, that experience can be done at 25 cents on the dollar. But
it's not just that. I mean, it is very affordable to live here. There's, everything from like the fresh organic fruits, that, vegetables, everything is like, it's almost like farm to table down here.
Yeah.
With the food scene. The people are just absolutely friendly, like he's saying, the Kamaina spirit and Casa Su Casa. You can't walk anywhere in the city without seeing somebody with a huge smile on their face and saying, Buenos dias, ¿cómo estás?
Yeah. I go back north. My family still is in Portland, so we go back, and it's often rainy and dreary there. But rarely, and I mean rarely, does someone look you in the eye when you pass them and say good morning, good afternoon, lovely blouse. Where did you get that shirt? It's special. I just can't say it enough. The way we've been treated as guests, because we are guests in this country. I just wish more of these people who are, I don't know if you would say on the left or the right or whatever, they certainly aren't in center. If they experience a little bit more, I think they would be prone to being a bit more flexible in life and how they treat people. You can learn a lot about the Mexican culture. I struggled in the first years of business down here because I'm go. And as soon as I sit down, I want to talk about business. And I'm at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the middle of the city looking for things. And then I realized, after banging my head up against the wall so many times, that at 2 o'clock, kids get out of school. Parents stop what they're doing. They go pick them up. They go have lunch. They take them home. They help them with their homework. And if it's not them, it's grandma that's at home. Grandma wasn't sent to some home. She's there at the house, and, maybe she doesn't have the same faculties as she used to, but she's doing some of the laundry, or she's been cooking since this morning to provide lunch, which is like a festival all on its own. If you ever get a chance to be invited to a Mexican's home for lunch, don't say no, and don't eat before you go. It's an all-day thing.
It is a different pace. It is a different energy. It is a different lifestyle, and I don't think it's for everyone, right? I think it's for a certain type of people, and I also admire the courage that it must have taken for you guys to go ahead and take that leap of faith and just go explore this unknown territory. So that's quite admirable. Now, going back to the business side of things, now that you have been around for so many years, what are some things that you wish you had perhaps done differently as far as building the property management portfolio, or so to speak, if you were giving advice to a property management company that's looking to do what you've done, which is successfully establish a brand that is recognized as one of the best and most premium, luxurious, whatnot. With what you know today, what would you tell someone that's starting out in creating a property management company and trying to scale it, to do differently or to be very cautious about? What are some of those main lessons that you would say you've gotten throughout the years?
I'm going to let Lion talk, but my first reaction, my first instinct to say would be, make sure you dial in how you're going to manage the repairs and maintenance. Because that is by far the most difficult thing in our business.
You can see I don't have any hair left, right?
Yeah. So repairs and maintenance. Yeah, it's not an easy one, huh?
No.
What would I do differently? What advice would I give? If I had to bottle that up, I would say first and foremost, the number one focus is your customer. Don't lose sight of that. Don't sacrifice the dollar, sacrifice the dollar for your customer, because the customer will come back. Customer is the one that's giving you the referrals. Customer is the one that gets to vote with their pocketbook. So it's always been, for me, the answer is yes. What's the question?
But also to add on to that, with not only taking care of the client and the customer needs, but we also feel that it's just as important to take care of your team and your staff.
Yeah.
So because if you don't, bring fun into the office, if you're not telling them regularly what they're doing right, and making it this really fun and enjoyable workspace, it's you get what you put in.
Yeah.
You get back what you put.
We very much have an inclusive environment with our team, and we try to do fun things during the down season. We paid well above the normal going rate. Vacations are standardly paid. We follow the rules and regulations regarding overtime, and our people are all insured through IMSS, and all the rules and stuff that are going. It seems that it's ever changing. Having someone in your office and those critical pieces of consultants in the space. Maybe they're not in your office, but look for a good lawyer. Look for good notarios, well studied. Look for good accountants. Again, giving good advice. How you set your framework up for property management, for vacation rentals, for real estate. It all ends up with the people that you surround yourself with. And if you get that inkling that the hair on the back of your neck is starting to do the little tingling thing, you're probably right. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even in your bad Spanish. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion if you're not quite sure. Some of those things, we almost went out of business in the 2010 and 11 time. We had to refinance our home. We borrowed money from her mom. It's not always easy. So make sure that you keep a nest egg, that you put money aside, because tourism goes up and down. And there are many years where we were dealing with profound violence and unrest with the whole war on drugs thing. And those were times of that we were very scared and concerned for our customers and our own safety. So
what has kept it there? What has kept it there despite the security issues and despite, you talked about everything you like about Mexico, but for a lot of people, they might see some of those, security things and they would fly away, they would run away, but yet you're still there. You decided to push through. You said you refinanced the property and made it out of it. Why stick around when you could have just left whenever you saw that things were getting difficult?
Well, that's I think that has to do with your character. A lot of people didn't make it through. A lot of people didn't make it through COVID, and a lot of people do get scared. I think it's the best time to reorganize. Best time to look around you to determine who are the key people that you trust. Are they the right people? And when you do have those solid people around you, they do this, right? They like, I got you. It's okay. They reaffirm, the so many things that are positive that outweigh those negativities. And that's life. You've got crime, you've got violence, you've got
Everywhere.
strife all over the world.
It's in Canada, it's in the US, it's like you said, it's everywhere.
Every city's got a drug problem. Every city's got a pornography problem. Every city's got, this dark side.
No, that makes a lot of sense. There's two things I want to touch on. And when I ask you what are the main lessons you've learned, the first thing, Lionne, you said was taking care of your customer, right? Now, as a property manager, there's this, dual customer situation going on where you have your guests on one side and you have your property owner on the other side. And both of them are your customers. You need to try to please both of them as much as possible. What's been your approach at balancing the needs of the guest and the needs of the owners? What are some nuggets that you could give us on that?
Well, we learned a lot along the way. We had a client rack up $1,000 electricity bill. We had people have parties in the home and, left a mess. We've had clients who refuse to fix things. We have had been given properties that were in disarray. The key piece there is to organize your expectations and prepare your guests and your clients for those expectations. For instance, Airbnb has a wonderful list of items that might make a home more comfortable. So we go through those lists, items, and we've kind of rewritten them for Mexico. And when we take on a new client, we say, this is some of the most popular things that a customer wants when they're looking for a rental. If you allow us to put those in place, or if you would like to purchase those and put them in place, we think you're going to be more successful in renting the property. Mm-hmm. Then same has to go for the customer. A well-detailed, well-organized outline of the property that someone's renting or purchasing, for that matter, and what's included in that rental or that purchase really alleviates some of the concerns that a customer may have, or the doubts that they might otherwise have. So spend the time to organize your properties, properly inventory them, mm-hmm. Organize what you think or you feel for your area is going to best fit your customer. Some of our customers who own homes provide bicycles, boogie boards, beach chairs, barbecues. The list goes on, and more of those amenities that you have, the more comfortable and the more of a home you're going to provide for your customer, whether it's for 3 nights or for 30. When a customer has a well-maintained and inventoried home, then they have a better rental experience, which leads to better reviews, which returns your guest to you the next year. And by having return guests, happy guests, you get those good reviews, which provide more opportunities for the next person, which then gives that operating income for our clients and for their homes.
Have you found guests to be a source of business as far as your brokerage division? Guests ending up buying properties from you guys,
Yes.
or referring you people that want to buy property?
Yeah.
Is that something you also
To that.
buying?
Yes,
Interesting.
absolutely. A lot of our vacation. Well, in Mazatlan, our average rental is probably 6 weeks because we get a lot of the snowbirds from Canada, US come down for the winter. And so usually it starts out about 6 weeks, and then they come, they love it. They are like, oh my gosh, next year we want to come for 2 months. And then they come for 2 months the following season, and then it's 3 months. And then all of a sudden they're like, I love it here. I want to buy something.
My favorite places that we had for rentals, the homeowners kept selling the properties, so they had to go to a new rental and a new rental. And then one year there was no rental. I was like, well, Greg, use that money, or don't you just buy something? We'll fix it up just the way you want it. And so he did. He bought something like that too. I was like, whoa, okay, I've got to use that line more often.
That's a good one. That's a good line. So walk us through the process of buying real estate in Mexico for anyone out there that is considering buying property in Mexico. There's some technicalities that need to be taken into consideration. You talked about the Fideicomiso. Tell us about financing, just at a high level for anyone that's just not familiar with the process of buying real estate in Mexico as an American. What does that process look like, and what are some tips you would provide based on all the transactions that you've been a witness of?
Well, as a foreigner, when you purchase property in Mexico, and when you're within so many meters of the ocean, kilometers, and when you're so many kilometers from the border towns, you have to purchase the property at what they call its Fideicomiso. So it's basically held with the bank. You can oftentimes you can choose which bank you want to hold it with. And they're good for 50 years, and then they're renewable for another 50 years. So
and so on and so on.
Yeah. And on top of that, you can also add substitute beneficiaries to the deed, so that in case something were to happen to you, it would automatically go to your substitute beneficiaries. They would just need to provide a death certificate, like having a will.
Yeah.
It's almost like kind of like having a living will, because if anything, because basically if somebody were to inherit the property as a substitute beneficiary, there's no inheritance tax here in Mexico.
It's a rite of passage here in Mexico, and the law states that as a direct heir to a property, if you're Mexican, then you have the first right of claim on that property without a will. The Fideicomiso actually, not only does it protect you as a buyer, because you have to go to ensure that your title's clean, that it's sent to you with no debt, and that there are no encumbrances. The whole process is much like you would in the United States or Canada. It's just a little bit different in that it's held in a Fideicomiso. So that title, most of our clients are purchasing outright. They'll make their payment in cash, and people are often astounded at the fact that they're actually buying the property and they're sending the wire transfer to the seller, not to a bank, not to an intermediary, not to an escrow. So it's very important that you use the right notario, that you have the right lawyers to write your contracts, and that advice to ensure that the clients that you're looking after have the proper guides. So in doing that, and in that many of our homes, I would say 95% of all homes that we sell are bought cash outright. Financing does exist.
It's very expensive.
It's twice, sometimes 3 times as expensive as it is in Canada and the United States. So for most of our clients who are North American, we suggest taking their properties and refinancing them there, pulling out cash.
If they have the availability to do that,
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be much more affordable for them to do that.
And in doing that, then they don't have to pay the higher interest rates. There are some more programs coming available as this becomes more and more popular of a place for the North Americans. The banks are seeing that they're good investments, that there are sound systems in place to ensure there is no fraud, that their debt can be properly collateralized.
But Mexico reminds me of what the United States was like back in the 70s.
When the
United States first started introducing credit. So it's like that's kind of a still very new concept here in Mexico. So people are now starting to buy cars on loans, getting construction loans, getting home loans. So it's like, as he's saying, as that gets more and more popular, those interest rates will become more and more affordable.
Well, Mexico's moving towards a more of a world society. We've got some unrest in the Middle East. We've got unrest in Asia and Russia, and a lot of people who are looking for stability in their investments, in their manufacturing, have been moving to Mexico. The term onshoring is very real. To be able to produce something, manufacture something, and put it on a train and send it up the corridor into the United States or Canada, the Trans-Pacific Railway that's being expanded at billions of dollars worth of infrastructure costs.
Yeah, there's a couple really big projects going on here at Mazatlan, which is pretty exciting, one is the railroad project he's talking about. That's going to go, they're expanding the port, and they're going to have a railway that's going to go from here all the way to Winnipeg. And so for import-export purposes. And then on top of that, just maybe 20 minutes outside the city on the Carretera, on the highway, they are building what's called an aerospace park, which is basically an airport for drones.
Yeah.
And these drones are made to carry like a lot,
3,000 kilos. So you could pretty much load that thing up with whatever you wanted, a whole tractor, trailer full of stuff,
or whatever,
and send it straight up, not having a person involved at all. They have remote onboarding, remote flight.
And and in this aerospace park, they built these large bodegas, like these storage facilities.
Yeah.
And in phase one, completely sold out.
And it's like $1 million bodega.
Each one went for about $1 million US.
Sold out. First year, done. The big Spanish firm here is the one behind it. And now they're working on phase two. And some of these larger facilities are coming online. We're fortunate enough to take on a large 300-hectare property development that's right on the outskirts of the natural habitat that's been protected out there towards Las Labradas. We have a property called La Venata. That's 300 hectares. Like, you could build a small city with that. And the price is like $29 million. It is outrageous. It's 2.9 million square meters.
I saw the video.
I can't even put the number on it. It's like
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So the possibilities are limitless. And with the right attitude, with the right team, anything's possible. So make sure you plan properly, organize yourself properly, and pick your delegates wisely. They're the most important piece of your team. We're very
Do you
fortunate
guys
to have found
personally
wonderful
invest?
people to help
You
support.
guys keep personally investing in real estate in Mazatlan? Are you guys looking into a lot of people that do real estate for a while in Mexico, then get into developing, right? So they buy the land and then they build. Are you guys, have you looked into developing your own projects? Where are you at as far as your investment path and career?
That's the fun part.
That's what you.
Yeah, that's what we're working on now. I'm trying to surround myself with as many key people to take over my day-to-day work routine, looking for new properties, new opportunities. Being in this business, you often are exposed to the best deals. And if you're in the right place and you have the right partners, you can make those opportunities really look nice for yourself. So yes, we're consistently looking for investment opportunities. We lease properties and then sublease on top of that. In some instances, we are buying dilapidated, old, rundown properties. With our current project right now, I'm working with my children to build a small condominium complex, and that would be their first investment as well. So if that all works out properly, then they'll have their first deeded property. So both boys now work with us. They went to Seattle for a while, came back. One of them is working in financing, helping manage the books, and the other is working on the most difficult job,
Repairs and maintenance.
which is repairs and maintenance. So they're learning books.
That's interesting. I'm curious to know a little bit more about talk to us about the process of buying property, as if the property is already built and you just want to buy a place that you're going to put to rent and come and maybe stay there a couple of months per year and whatnot. When it comes to actually developing, I mean, it's an entirely different process. And you said that there's a apartment complex that you are developing. So one thing I want to understand is when it comes to the financing for that. Let's say you have the land, you know the right people, you got the land. In the US, in Canada, you're gonna raise some capital from investors, but you're gonna finance with a bridge financing or anything else the actual construction. In Mexico, what have you guys seen as far as the most common ways to finance new developments? A lot of developers finance their projects with they sell the units in advance to potential buyers, and those funds finance the project itself. A lot of them is self-funded, but I'm curious to understand that process and also the exit strategy at the end, right? Because there's different exit strategies. There's those that want to hold on to it. There's those that want to sell the individual units afterwards. And in the US and Canada, there's those that want to refinance once the project is completed to go and do something else. So what does developing, buildings and apartment complexes and things like that, what does that look like in Mexico? What is the process?
Well, I think that for a national, meaning a Mexican, they're going to have a lot more tools at their fingertips than a North American would. That said, Kristen and I have been working really hard on developing our credit here in Mexico. We've made some great connections with banks, and those loans are available. They're just not the amount for me at my current stage that are going to suffice. So I look at, our properties up north, and I use them oftentimes to refinance, the last couple projects we've done. We've refinanced a property here, and it, was 7.9%. That was before all of the raises. So I think that would probably be about 12% now. And if I wanted to try and do that up north, I did some refinancing and was about 3.75%. To do that now, it's 7.75%. So all of these numbers that are increasing are making properties more expensive, because that financing, well, it has a cost over time. So what I've seen as the most popular is as these projects go into what they call pre-sale. And a pre-sale, at the entry level, they're looking for investors, someone who's willing to wait 2-3 years for them to finish their building, depending on the size, right? Some buildings are done in 1.5 years. Some buildings are done in 5. And if you've done your homework properly, you've aligned yourself with somebody who has a good reputation, who has
the money,
proper funding.
Yeah, that's probably the most important and best advice we can give with the pre-sales down here, is that you want to make sure that the person that's building it doesn't necessarily need the funds from other people's funds in order to build it.
Do your research.
Because if we were ever to go through another economic crisis like we did in 2008, something like that, who's to say that they're going to be able to finish the project, because they don't have if they don't have the funds, and they're counting on your funds or everybody's funds to come in order to build it.
We have a beautiful building here in Cerritos. It's about 2 blocks from us here. Beautiful building. They went online in about 2005, started, and we're supposed to be finished in 2007, 2008. That's right when the financial crisis hit. And as of today, the administration in that building is still fighting with the original developers. Still, there are units that have been completed. And still, the developer hasn't finished the clubhouse. So fast forward 2023, you made your investment. My last client, whose property I helped remodel, he bought his property in 2007. He was the first person to buy a building. He picked a really nice 3-bedroom unit, and it wasn't available to him for 12 years.
That's crazy. And I think that's where a lot of times there's fear. There's fear involved in, sometimes when people from Canada or the US look at investing in Mexico, they're interested in it, but there's fear with, exactly those kind of horror stories that we've all heard. And then you say, okay, do your due diligence, make sure that, you're working with someone that has the right funding and whatnot. But it's not easy as a foreigner to know those things, because they can be selling you the dream. They can be telling you that they have the funds. They can be putting on a great facade. So what would you say are some of those red flags to be aware of?
The world.
Yeah. But also aligning yourself, with companies like ourselves. There's other companies here in town too, other real estate companies.
They have great
they have great
read the reviews.
Make sure they have an online presence, read the reviews. That and anybody that's going to have that type of presence is not going to steer you in the wrong direction.
But as a builder, you mentioned the red flags to answer your question. If you're looking at publicity online, go to the site. Does it look like people are working there? Does it look like the rebar in the ground's been there for a long time and it's rusting and oxidized? Is the sign that they originally put up in front shredded and in disrepair? If that's what the job site looks like, that's what your investment looks like. Found the very best investments, the very best operators, even in a remodel, at the end of the day, everything is cleaned. Everything is in one spot. Everything's put back to place. If a sign gets blown down because of a storm, it's replaced. So go to the site. Don't just believe what you read. Don't just believe the pictures. Today, there's this great unrest with the AI spoofs, if you will. I mean, someone can put my face on someone else and my voice, and all of a sudden I was there. I did that. So go down there, physically talk to the people. Go down there, physically tour the site. Ask good questions. Do your research. So
yeah. Or surround yourself with people like yourself who are there locally and have been there for years and know the ins and outs of the business. So I think that's also a great approach. Just to wrap up here, because looking at time, I could hold you guys on for hours and hours, because this has been a great conversation. What are you guys most excited about, when you look at the vision you have for Mazatlan4Sale, Mazatlan4Rent? What is something that we can expect to see from you guys in the coming months?
Well, there's always that rental or that project that you've been working on, that you've been working to polish, to bring to your customers. We have a gym that we've been working on Vista Hermosa. We have some of the most amazing clients that we've been working with. Kristen sold them the home, and then we've been working with them to help them visualize their dream and how they'd like to see this house be restored. Those opportunities are with each of our clients. Whether it's an old dilapidated property that's being put into our rental pool, or a brand new shining one that people just got their keys for. Most of my joy comes from polishing or repolishing or building something new. The most exciting thing that I can say comes from when your team realizes certain goals and achievements, and they too find success. We've got one girl who has been working with us for a number of years now, Marisol, and she's working to become a super host, which would mean our whole company is a super host, which is quite a big deal when you're dealing with 60 some odd properties. When you're a super host for one house, that's easy. But when you're a super host for 60 homes, it's quite an accomplishment. So if she gets that super host, we have agreed to help get her to achieve one of her lifelong dreams, which is to go to Italy. So we told her we'd put some money towards that trip and help her fund that if she achieves that goal. So I'd love to see that happen. I know she's close, but like anything, you just have to hustle to make that happen.
And believe in your people.
Yeah.
Believe in your people. No, that's amazing. I mean, you need to believe in your people to give them a stake of the business, to give them equity in the business, to make them partners. And I'm sure that has played a big role as well in the engagement of your talent, because at the end of the day, they're owners of the company as well. So I always say that when you act as if you own whatever company you're working for, it leads you to think differently, right? It leads you to make decisions differently, not just to solve whatever symptom you're seeing at a surface level, but always trying to find out what's the root cause and how can we fix this situation at the root cause so that it doesn't happen again. And I really admire what you guys have done when it comes to that, when it comes to building the right team, because it's not easy. It's not easy in Mexico. It's not easy in the US. It's not easy in Canada. It's not easy anywhere. But especially when there's a language difference and a cultural difference, I mean, it's even harder, I would say, to be able to build that kind of culture. So really, really impressed by everything you guys have been able to achieve. And hopefully I'll be able to have you on another episode a couple of months from now, and you can tell us all about what you have accomplished between now and then. But really, really appreciate your time. This was a lot of fun. This was very insightful. And yeah, really, really looking forward to seeing everything that's next on your end. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. It's a true honor. We appreciate the opportunity to tell our story. But more importantly, the more people we help in this business, the better the business becomes. And we feel that as everyone rises, our opportunities become that much more fulfilling.
Absolutely. No, thank you. This has been great.
Thank you.
Cheers.